Let's get started. So welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. My name is Rafi Shulman and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. I just want to take a moment and thank the moderators who are joining me tonight. Galit Kelman, Darren Rich, Yael Wolf, and Eldad Ziv. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. I'm sure that the people who are joining us tonight appreciate the time and the advice that you're going to be sharing with us. We have over 150 people who have registered tonight, which is always amazing. You know, there's a lot of familiar names and a lot of new names. And I know from my point of view, it's a zchut, it's a privilege to be able to share information, to help you, to guide you. And I really think that we all feel that this is something that we want to do, and we definitely encourage you to reach out to us with any questions that you might have. Just a few things to keep in mind before we start. The first one is that we're going to put the contact information at the end. So if you want to reach me or any of the other moderators, you'll be able to reach out to them directly. So just hold on for that. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A or the chat window, and we'll try and get to as many questions as we can at the end. It's going to be very hard to get into everyone's situation, and everyone has their own circumstances. So we'll touch upon some of the questions, and then we'll reach out to you, or you reach out to us, and we'll be glad to have one-on-one conversations where we can really get into your situation and give you advice. And then last but not least, we will be sending out a recording to everyone who registered. So if you have to leave early, don't worry, I'm not going to hold it against you. We'll send you out a link to the recording so that you will be able to watch it at your convenience. What I want to do now is just put up a poll for just a moment, just to get a sense of what you're interested in. Are you looking to buy? Are you looking to rent? Are you looking to sell? And your timelines. If you can just take a moment and fill out the poll. Does everyone see it there on the screen? Good. I see that the answers are starting to come in. So we'll just leave it up for a moment or so, and then we'll get started. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Oh, 1 second. Are you seeing the screen, or are you seeing my notes? Because somebody said they're seeing the notes. The notes. Okay, so give me a second. Let me just end the poll. Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing here for a moment. I just want to share the right screen with you guys. So, okay, do you see the PowerPoint now?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So let's talk just, let's talk a little bit about Olim Advisors and why we're putting these webinars together. When we started, my sister and I, back in 2016, we really started Olim Advisors with two goals in mind. The first goal was to encourage and to help and to guide people who are thinking about making Aliyah. Maybe they've been dreaming about it, maybe they've been planning it for years, and we want to try and give them that extra push, give them that extra guidance so that they can make that the reality. And part of that process, of course, is finding a community, is finding schools, is finding a home. And as you can imagine, it's a tough decision, especially if you're living outside of Israel, whether it's the US, the UK, Australia. And so we want to be that guiding hand, somebody that you can turn to help make those decisions. The second goal was to help people adjust to life in Israel. So once they got here, there's a lot of things that you have to take care of, and it's different, right? It's a different language, it's a different culture, and things maybe that you take for granted where you live right now are just done differently here. So we want to help people adjust to that process. And so we actually go with our clients to the bank, we go with them to the government offices, we make sure that they're registered so they get all their benefit, the zchuyot, because if it's not done properly, it's a nightmare to fix. And then just on a day-to-day basis, things come up. You might get an email from your bank in Hebrew, or you have to choose your healthcare provider, or find a doctor, or buy a car. You know, people that live in Israel just know that there's a lot of things that come up over time. And so we, in essence, want to be able to be that source of information, that source of support. And thank God we've helped over the years hundreds of families who have made Aliyah and thousands of people who are living here. And so if you're thinking about making Aliyah, I really want to encourage you to reach out to me, to reach out to the team. We'd be happy to talk to you about your plans. And whether you're making Aliyah in a few months or down the road, just let's chat about it. Let's see what we can do to help. The other thing that we have recently gotten involved in about a year ago is real estate, because one of the biggest decisions that people have to make, whether they're making Aliyah or living in Israel, is finding a home. And we're getting a lot of questions from Olim and from Anglos who are living here who said, look, now we want to buy a house. Can you help us? Can you tell us what the process is like? Because the process of buying a home in Israel is very different from it is in the States, in Canada, in the UK, and South Africa. And so people were turning to us for advice. And the other thing is people were asking us, who should we work with? Who can we trust? Whether it's a realtor or a developer or a mortgage broker or a banker or a real estate lawyer, if you're sitting in Australia and you're looking at different websites, it's tough to determine who to work with. And so we have put together a network of professionals who are honest, who are caring, who are hardworking. The people that have joined us tonight are part of our network, and they really go above and beyond to try and help people who are trying to find a home. And it's not just people who are making Aliyah. Maybe it's somebody that wants a vacation home. Maybe it's somebody who wants to sell their home. Or maybe it's somebody who wants to invest in real estate. All of these kind of fall underneath this umbrella of trying to help people with their real estate needs. And that's what we're here for. That's why we're here, is to help you go through this process and to guide you. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Eldad. And Eldad, if you can introduce yourself, and I'll change the slide here in a moment. I'll hand it over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Eldad Ziv. I've been living in Rehovot 13 years. I'm Israeli, my wife is American, and we came here 13 years ago from Florida. I'm in real estate for 12 years, and in the last several years, I'm focusing in the Anglo community. In Rehovot, there is the Weizmann Institute, which is a very famous institute for science, as well as the agriculture faculty and many high-tech companies. There are two large shuls, mainly for English speakers. One is the Berman Shul, which is more like modern Orthodox, and the other one is Khatam, which is more like yeshiva style. Also, there is a very large Chabad community here, and the rabbi is well-known, Rabbi Glukovsky, which is originally from Canada. And like I said, I'm focusing in the Anglo community. I dealt with many people who made Aliyah, people who rent, people who bought apartment here, people who bought investments property, and I'm here to help you and guide you, especially if you want to come to the Rehovot area.
Great. Okay, here you go.
So, like Rafi said, it's very complicated when you're sitting in Montreal or New York or Sydney to make a decision to buy a property in Israel, and there are many details involved. I put together a few very important tips that I see and I've seen through the years. The first one is many people think that they know their budget, but they don't know enough because there are other taxes involved and other things that I think to talk to a real estate attorney to make sure if they need to pay more money. It's something that will help them to determine their final budget. And I've seen people throughout the years that, like I said, that they think that they have a certain budget, but only after they spoke to their attorney, it was clear for them that it's not exactly the budget that they were thinking about. The other tip is parking. Parking in Israel, it's a very important factor. Not every apartment has a parking. Find a parking in the street sometimes can be a very complicated mission. And therefore, I suggest that if you buy either apartment for yourself apartment as investment to make sure that there is a parking for the apartment. It will help you to rent it quickly, and it will definitely make your life much easier if you live in the apartment. The third tip is mainly for people who buy investment property and they want to rent it quick, and they also want long-term renters, so they won't need to look every summer for new renters. And one of the things that I found that in areas that is more like family oriented, you have much more chances to make sure that your renter will be a long-term, because the kids going to the same schools, the father, mother, the family belong to the same community, to the same shul. And this is something that I would definitely recommend for people buying for investment. Okay. Now, for people who come here, usually we met people come here and first, before they buy, usually, not always, they rent. Here, like in America, you have the credit score system that can determine who is a reliable tenant and who is not. Here, we don't have it yet. And therefore, landlords like to secure themselves either with bank guarantee or with people, usually from the family of the renters, that can be guarantors. And I think it's important for everyone who planning to rent here to learn the system and to know what to expect. The second thing is that here you rent from individuals, not from company, and each person has different contracts. And one of the things that I found throughout the years, that one of the most important things is to make sure that everything that happened in the apartment, something that breaks or something that doesn't work, make sure that when it comes to the infrastructure of the apartment or the house, the responsibility to fix it will be the responsibility of the landlord. This is, I think, extremely important and will prevent you from troubles down the road. Now, about people who want to sell, people who already live in Israel or people who live abroad and they have properties in Israel and they want to sell their property. I guess that the first tip will be, it's a general tip that can take place here and in America, to make sure that the property that we show it in the best way, which means, all the lights on and the AC works and there is a nice atmosphere, sometimes to bake something and to make sure that, the house feels like a house. This is something that people want to feel. And those little details sometimes makes a lot of difference. Another thing is, especially if you live abroad and you have a property here, people like to feel that the owner knows the details about the apartment, such as how much is the maintenance fee, how much is the Arnona city tax pay, and also to make sure that technical things like if the pipes was replaced and when, and every other detail that can deliver the message and the feeling to the potential customer that this house is a house that people care about and they know everything about the house. Okay, now we're moving to properties that currently for sale. I focus in properties that close walking distance to the Anglo shuls, either to the Berman shul or to Hatam shul or to Chabad. This penthouse is actually a very unusual penthouse. It's very large. It's 152 square meters built. And on top of that, there are balconies of 50 meters, and the roof, which is 140 meters, it's belong to the apartment. And the other thing that's very, very unusual, that they divided the apartment to two separate apartments. So someone who wants to live here with their children right next to, or he wants to live in the big part and then to rent out the second part can do it. It's in a building that's 23 years old. There is a mamad, safe room, which is also very important for many people now. It's totally renovated. It has a Shabbat elevator, 2 parking and a storage. And it's a very, very attractive property, just came to the market 2 weeks ago. And it's about 2 minutes walk to the Khatam Shul, 12 minutes walk to the Berman Shul, and also very close to Chabad. Also close to many schools, parks, and to the exit from Rehovot. The second property that I want to present you, it's also for sale. It's a smaller apartment, 4-room apartment, 3 bedrooms. It's an 11 years old building. It has a balcony, which happened to be also sukkah balcony. 85% of the balconies here are not for sukkah. This one is for sukkah. It's in the 5th floor with Shabbat elevator and a mamad. It's a great property for family. It's also very good for investment because this is an area, like I said before, it's a family oriented, and renters here will be most likely for many years. Now I want to tell you something about apartment for rent. This apartment is in a brand new building. It's 2 minutes walk to the Berman Shul. It's on the 2nd floor, 4-room apartment, which is 3 bedrooms. It has 2 balconies, which is not standard. Usually those apartments come with 1 balcony, 1 parking and a storage. Price for something like that is 6,000 shekels. And for someone who wants to be in Rehovot next to the Weizmann Institute, close to the center, and like I said, next to the Berman Shul, it's a very attractive option.
Great, thank you, Eldad. I appreciate it. All right, Galit, you're up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Galit Kamen. I'm a real estate agent working for Remax here in Ashkelon. I've been in real estate for 10 years. 5 years out of those, I've been working in Remax here in Ashkelon. I was born and raised in Los Angeles and in Ashkelon when I made Aliyah as a child. So I've been back and forth over the years. Married to Uri Kalman, and I have 4 kids that we made Aliyah with. And we're doing great here in Ashkelon. So a little bit about Ashkelon. It's a beach city, 20 minutes south of Ashdod, and about 45 minutes south of Tel Aviv. Ashkelon is today the most reasonably priced city out of the beach cities north of Ashkelon. The tips that I have for the sellers to start with are, since we don't have an organized MLS system here in Israel that helps guide the sellers, then it's a little bit more tricky and a little bit more difficult to price your properties. And one of the things that I recommend to start with is start checking what sales were closed the past year on your street. And if there weren't anything on your street, then on the street next door to you, the closest one to you. Then you work your way up to, start doing a market analysis by comparing the properties to yours, if it's similar in size, if the age of the building is similar to yours, what the apartment has to offer. It's a little difficult building the right price for your apartment when you're not really involved in the market. So that's the first thing I would start with in order to build the right price for your property. Second tip would be know your competition. It's very common that seller would notice their next door neighbor's apartment for sale, and their apartment is selling for 1.2, and you feel like your apartment is nicer than theirs, then you're just going to sell for 1.3. But your market value could possibly be no more than 1.2 as well, and you're pretty much gifting your buyers, your potential buyers, to your neighbor. So that's another common mistake sellers make, since they usually build their price based on emotions. Oh, look, I invested, I put in a really nice kitchen and it cost me money, so I should get that back. Doesn't really work that way. That's one way of one mistake that we want to try to avoid in order to get an effective start the sale on the right foot. Negotiating. Look, we're in Israel, and we negotiate. Negotiating process can be a little bit aggressive, and not because they're not nice or because or whatever, but we're talking about a hot Israeli mentality, and we tend to take things personal. So try to remember that it's just the mentality and the culture, and it's not because they're not being nice. So it's always important to ask from your potential buyer. Write down your offer on a piece of paper. Don't offend them. Even if they gave you an offensive offer, have them write it down. Tell them we'll take your offer seriously. We'll think about it. Come back to them the next day. Your offer hasn't been accepted. We feel like you can, maybe give them a counter offer and see where it goes. And that way you can really measure if your buyer is a serious one about your apartment, or he's just trying to see how far he can get down and can go down with you. Buyers. Just like Eldad said before, you want to determine, first of all, your budget and understand where you're heading financially, because there's a lot more than just the budget of how much you can afford a home. There's expenses that are additional to your budget, which is paying, realtor fees, lawyer fees, mortgage broker fees. If you're going to get a mortgage, then you have the fee of opening what's called a tik mashkanta. You always have to have a buffer over there. So always take, a certain amount of money in consideration that you're going to need, deducted from the budget that you originally have. Unless you have more extra money on the side, aside from the budget of the purchase, then that's a different story. But that's just common things that you want to take into consideration before starting to look at property. The next step would be narrowing down the neighborhoods, understanding what your needs are. If you're an older couple, then maybe you don't really need to care about what schools are in the area. You don't really need to care about if there's parks or for little children at the moment. If you're a younger couple, then maybe you do need to know what schools are in the area and if it fits your needs. If you're on the more religious side or less religious side, you need to understand what the neighborhoods have to offer. Before even talking about the customer, in my opinion, go on a date in the area, come visit Ashkelon, go to the marina, go to certain sites. If you call me, I would definitely give you areas to tour, get a vibe, because before you buy an apartment, you buy the location. And that's more important before taking a look at a home. Because you could be seeing many beautiful homes, and then when you get there, you understand that the area is not where you would be living in. Especially if it's an area that you have no friends or family you haven't been to before, definitely seek help from a professional to understand what the area is all about. For example, Ashkelon has a nice growing English community near the beach. We're still hoping to get more young families down here, but for now we have a wonderful, nice, retired community that I can enjoy as adopted grandparents for my children. So they're always bringing us candy from the States when they go visit their own grandchildren. So it's nice for me. The next slide.
Galit, it's just a little hard to hear you when you speak. You're fading in and out. So maybe if you can just speak a little closer to the microphone, it might be.
Sure. All right. For the renters, there's a lot of people here that help. They're either family members or realtors that answer the phone to the ad that you called to regarding a property. You want to make sure you get to know who's the owner, understand who you're going to be, renting from. Where are they? Don't be shy to ask to speak to them or to see them. If it's a company management like us, then we're open. We don't have a problem with it, but you don't have to shy away from asking about who the owner is. You want to also know what the responsibility of the owners for the apartment. Eldad mentioned it before. It happens a lot, with sometimes in the contracts are a little bit mostly to the benefit of the owner because he drafted the contract with his own lawyer, and they don't always protect the tenant. They protect the owner and the property. I can understand, since a lot of times you're renting out apartments to tenants that don't really take care of the property and they leave major damages. I've had experience with this, but there's a limit of what should be at the responsibility of the tenant and what should be the responsibility of the owner. Anything that has to do with the infrastructure, leaks, certain electric issues, major electric issues that have to do, core issues with the buildings, at the responsibility of the owner. But if it's something that you broke, or a window or a door, then during the time that you're using it, then it should be definitely a responsibility of the tenant. But again, pay close attention to the clauses in the contracts. There's a lot of gray areas, so you want to review it with a professional before committing to a rental contract. It's very common to provide 12 checks in advance for the 12 months of the year, an open talk to tax property, city tax, water, power, gas, in case you, for some reason, end up not paying it, and there's a large charge that you haven't paid, then the owner has a right to use that check and deposit in order to cover the fees that were accumulated, or any large damages. But most cases, we don't resort to that.
Okay.
All right, a little bit about what I have to offer to you in Ashkelon. In the marina area, which is one of the areas that I work in a lot. Most of the English speakers like that particular area because it's near the beach, vacation lifestyle. There's an English speaking shul in that area. Nice community. I'll give you a few names. They're here on the panel. This is a 2-room apartment on the 5th floor. First line to the ocean view. It's 45 square meter with a 30 square meter balcony. Great for, coming for holidays, high holidays with the family. You have a pool, a gym, all the facilities, the sauna, a jacuzzi, 24-hour security. Has a hotel vibe to it. And of course, you have the Marina Mall right down the road from it, and movie theaters, bars, restaurants. So great, great environment for only $1,350,000. For rent, we have another 2-room in the marina area that's available, not furnished. Also about the same size, 45 square meters with another 18 square meter balcony, only 3,000 shekels a month. That includes also maintenance fees for a pool and an indoor pool and a gym. That's available as we speak. The next apartment is also in the marina area, which is more of a house vibe, a garden apartment, which is in a building. However, it's the first time you hear this term, garden apartment. It's a ground floor apartment within a building. You still have, you're a shared complex with the rest of the tenants in the building. You have a backyard with 125 square meter 5-room apartment with 120 square meter yard across the street from the beach. Similar location to the apartment we mentioned before, so same distance to the beach, 3-minute walk. 2 parking spots for only $2,680,000. The building is only 6 years old. Also has a gym, no pool. Open space, and definitely has that vibe of a house that has a 4-meter height ceiling, which is not very common in these apartments, but this one has that uniqueness to it. And that's it. And that sums up.
Thank you so much, Galit. One question that just popped up, I just want to answer this one because it's relevant. They're asking about rooms. So when somebody talks, like Galit mentioned, the 5-room, that typically means 4 bedrooms and a living room. So just for the sake of clarity, as Darren and Yael talk about their apartments as well, when they say 5-room, that's just the way it's described in Israel. It's bedrooms plus another room, which includes usually a living room.
Correct.
Okay, thanks so much, Galit. All right, Yael, on to you. You're on mute, Yael. There you go.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Rafi, for the opportunity, and Lara. I love working with Olim Advisors, and it's also amazing just to see so many Olim coming in from all over the world. Something that hasn't been mentioned that I feel like it's necessary to mention is this summer, thank God, after Corona, it's like the floodgates have opened, and our phones, I'm sure the other real estate agents can agree with me. The phones haven't stopped, and the market it's like, thank God, it's really, really busy, and it's people are coming to Israel. So if you're thinking about it, that's why we're here, and I'm excited to be able to help you as a real estate agent. And the city that I'm focusing on is Jerusalem. Our family made Aliyah almost 7 years ago now from Los Angeles. I'm originally from Australia. My husband's from Minnesota. We're a bit of the United Nations. And I love real estate. I was a teacher for 12 years. And in LA, we stopped at every single open home on Sundays and Tuesdays, every time there was one. And there's an agent who's in LA, and he always said to me, "Oh, come and work for me." And I said, "No, I love teaching. I'm not doing that." And then when I came to Israel, I really reinvented myself, and I've now gone out on my own. So I have my own agency, and I have other people that I work with, and we'd love to help you when you get here, or even before you're thinking to come and to buy. At the beginning of the process, reach out, don't hesitate to call, because it is a process and it can take time. It can take a year, 2 years, or it can be very fast. But like the other agents mentioned, it's important to really have a process and goals of like when you want to come, and there's steps involved. So you should know in terms of what you're doing, like reach out to the real estate lawyer and to the real estate agents, because that will help you. So here are my tips for the renters, buyers, and sellers. Number one, if you're ready to buy, sell, or rent, then you have to be prepared to move quickly. And the reason for this, I always say, like, nothing balachatz, which means with pressure. Like, don't do anything feeling pressured. Having said that, the market, as I mentioned, is pretty crazy, especially in Jerusalem, and things are moving like so quickly. Things are not even listed and they're selling. So you need to have everything kind of lined up and ready to go. So I think it was Eldad who mentioned having a real estate attorney ready. So if you can reach out to a real estate attorney and ask him, like, in terms of my budget and all the things that I'm going to need. Something that just came up for me now with a client, which I didn't anticipate, because it was the first time I had a client who was, she came from LA, and things changed literally day to day. So she had to get an apostille stamp to get the power of attorney for someone to sign here on her behalf. And she filled in the forms. She had to go downtown to get it done. It took a whole week. Meanwhile, the agent on the other side who's selling the apartment was putting a lot of pressure and saying to me, if you don't have this form from your client and the lawyer doesn't have it, then we're going to move on to somebody else and she's going to miss out on the apartment. So that's where the real estate agents come in, because you have to be in good hands and, you know, just reassure the other side that it takes time and have patience. But if somebody knows ahead of time, they for sure are ready to buy. So if you can have that ready, if you can transfer your money, if you know the percentage of the property tax that you need to pay, the currency exchange rates is helpful to know, because that also changes all the time. Be as prepared as you possibly can, because when the right place comes up for you, and maybe it is a process, or maybe you'll find it within the first week, but when you're ready, just be ready to move with the steps necessary. The second tip that I have for everybody is, this is something Rabbi Weil is our rabbi from Los Angeles. He's now the head of FIDF, he's the president. He said that when we were living in LA, it was very, very expensive. And Jerusalem can also, most of the places in Jerusalem for sale, and even to rent, can be very expensive. And he said, if you're moving or you're living in LA, or now if you're thinking to live in Jerusalem, you should have a Manhattan attitude. So what does this mean? You're in the most incredible location. You have everything at your fingertips. You have the Kotel, you're close to Emek Rafaim if you're in Bakar in the German colony, or, you know, you have a million shops and Shiurim, and there's scholars in residence, and it's endless of the possibilities. But know that you're buying something that may be smaller than what you're used to. And I've met so many Olim who come and, you know, oh, I just want to tell you what our house is like in New Jersey, and it's 3,000 square feet, and a backyard and a swimming pool and all of that, but you're not in Jerusalem. So you do get to, it's a compromise. And at the same time, I don't think that anyone I know that's moved here is not feeling validated that they're here, or that it's a bracha that they're here. And I could say the same for us personally. Like, you know, we gave up living in a big, beautiful home, and it is a bracha to be here, and thank God. So that's my second thing that I wanted to mention. And then Jerusalem is very, very vibrant, as I mentioned already, and it's continually growing and it's going up in value. And I really strongly believe that anywhere in Israel, it doesn't matter if it's Jerusalem or Ra'anana or Modi'in or Netanya, wherever it is, I think even if you see things plateau in the next year, over time, it will continue to go up. And so if you can get a foothold here in Israel and you can buy, then just go for it. And it is a little bit of a leap of faith for sure, but it's worth it. And I think, you know, as much as you can, do what you can, because like renting it's also amazing if that's what you can do and you're able to do that. Just to be here in Israel is amazing. But if you're able to buy, then really consider it. But speak to people who can help you, friends, family, and then, you know, teams of real estate agents or lawyers or whoever it is, mortgage brokers that can help you through the process. And then that leads me to your agent is your eyes and ears on the ground. So I speak English. I'm an Olim myself. I made Aliyah, like I said. And we have been, our family, my husband and I, we've been landlords, we've rented, we have bought a house, we've done everything. So I'm coming from personal experience. When I work with clients, and that's what I do for my clients, I will help you to find the right place for you. I'm not looking at from the perspective of either the seller or the buyer, depending which one you are. I'm looking at your individual, what it is that you want. So if you're looking for a house or you're looking for a garden apartment, and it has to be a garden apartment with no steps because, you know, you're thinking like ahead and you don't want to have any steps, or you need an elevator to get to the penthouse. Those are things that I will weed out for you in order to find the right place so that you don't have to do that. And I take on the, you know, that burden, so to speak.
And just to jump in for a second, I know over the past year and a half with Corona, there's been a number of people that I know who have bought things sight unseen. In other words, they've worked with an agent, they haven't been able to come to Israel, and they've bought properties throughout the country. And realtors, I believe, are worth their weight in gold, and even more so during this period where you're not able to come. And so just to kind of stress that point, if you work with a good agent, they can find the property for you, and even if you aren't able to make it. So I just wanted to share that thought with you.
So something else, just on that, Rafi, is I have a client now who she was looking for an apartment with a view in Modi'in. I work in Modi'in as well. And it was facing the city center. And she specifically said, I only want facing Tel Aviv because then you get the most beautiful sunsets in the Dimri Towers. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but we looked at a few places on the wrong side. And then I said to her, you know what, if you could be patient and wait, as soon as the right thing comes up, I'll help you and we'll go for it. And that's when, like I said, you have to be quick and ready. And thank God something came up, and it wasn't even listed. It was not through Yad Stein, it was through another agent that I work with. And he said, this is available. And we went to see it at 10:30 at night. And then the next morning she put in an offer, and it's going through the next week. So yeah, it really helps to have someone on the ground who you trust, who you know that you can work with. It's going to really be there representing you, which leads me into the next slide, Rafi.
Sure.
You have to know what you want. And I put this here. This was featured in the New York Times. It's a picture of an apartment in Israel, or a home in Israel. And if you have a look on the left, you see like floor to ceiling closets. And the more you know, and I know this is maybe a really like a little detail that maybe you've thought of in your dream home, or maybe you haven't, but a lot of clients come to me and they say, I don't know which community I even want. And I say to them, think about it, speak to people and decide. Like, for instance, in Modi'in, in Buchman, it's on a hill. Kaiser is in Modi'in, and it's very flat. So those are things to consider when you're considering a community. And the same when it comes to buying an apartment or a house. Do you want something modern? Do you want something older? And you want to fix it up, so therefore you're saving money, but you're getting really good value? Those are things to think about. Is a balcony important to you, or you don't care? Does it matter to you if there are 3 flights of steps, or you think it's great exercise to go like climbing up and down the steps? So I put that picture here just so you can really think about what you want when you're thinking about buying, renting, or selling. So here's an example of something that's new to the market. It's a garden apartment. It's on the more expensive end of Jerusalem, although the prices just can be whatever, but this is an expensive apartment. It's 12.5 million shekel, which somebody asked what's the dollar to shekels. It's 3 to 1, and it's beautifully built with an architect, and it's for sale. So just to give you an example, and here are 2 apartments that are for rent. One is in Rehovot and the other one is in Baka. So one is 11,000 shekels. The garden apartment in Baka, 11,000 shekels. Again, what Rafi mentioned, when it says 3.5 rooms, that means 2.5 bedrooms and the living room. And that's in Baka in Jerusalem. And then the apartment in Rehovot that's for rent is 8,700. And again, 2.5 bedrooms and a living room in Rehovot.
And a half room typically is the mamad, or the security room. That's what they count, right? So it could be a bedroom, but it's not a full-size bedroom, right?
Yeah, and people will use that space as an office, or maybe for a crib for a baby, but it's not a big room at all. You're right. So yeah, these are different communities in Jerusalem that I work in, and I work with a lot of agents within Jerusalem who also, like, we're on WhatsApp groups. So if you're looking, let's say you're looking on Janglo or Yad Stein and you have a look, even if you're looking on those websites, it's still helpful to have an agent in your pocket, like Eldad or Galit or Darren or whoever, somebody that you trust that can be in touch with you. And you could say to them even, and I've done this with many clients, I saw something on Yad Stein, or my friend is selling this apartment, because it's not only about finding the apartment and getting there before other people are interested in it. It's also the negotiating and all of those things that it's like a big parcel that comes in with getting an apartment sold or bought or rented. Yeah, so these are 2 for rent, and it's similar. I've done a lot of rentals this summer and also sales, and this is similar to things that are renting in Jerusalem.
Great. Thank you, Yael. Thanks so much. Darren, last but not least, you're up.
Evening, everybody. My name is Darren Rich. I'm originally from the UK. I've been living in Netanya for almost 15 years. I wish I had somebody like Rafi when I made Aliyah, but unfortunately there wasn't. So we've had to learn. We had to learn everything the hard way, and you make a few mistakes here and there, but it gives you a lot of knowledge. So this knowledge we can pass on to our clients and make their life easier and without problems. So we're part of Keller Williams, which is we're part of the worldwide network of KW. There's 23 branches in Israel, so we can work all over. Our office is in Netanya along the water, and that's where we specialize. I personally specialize in working with the English-speaking market, and we've been doing it for many years. And we see it as a privilege and not just as an income. We help people with so much more than just buying an apartment. We help them with everything around it. We can help them with legal representation. We can guide them to mortgages if necessary. And we manage our clients from the beginning to the end and even past the end. Okay, so the tips for the buyers. What we normally do, just like the panel said at the beginning, it depends at what stage you're at. You may be the beginning stage. You may know the areas. You may not know the areas. Well, the first thing we do is, whether the client's here or overseas, we educate the client on the various areas. We speak to them a lot. We understand their needs, their family's needs, and we speak to them. If they're not here, we do a live tour around the area. We've got photographs, we've got maps, we've got places of interest, we've got information on the schools if necessary. So if somebody comes to us for the first time, we've done the research, we've helped them, and we go around all the different areas that may be of interest. Even if they say we don't want to see an area, we still explore it. So afterwards, they can't say, why did you not show me that area? Was there a reason? So basically, we educate the potential buyer or renter. It doesn't make any difference. We help them. And normally the client identifies very quickly the specific area they want. It doesn't take days. It can take a few hours. Sometimes the people don't want to be in older construction, or they want to be closer to the water. Most people have a good idea how they want to live their lives. So first of all, as I say, we identify the area, and then we sit with them and we discuss the prices and make sure that the area we're showing them, the prices, their budget is relevant. They don't get excited over living in an area they're not able to buy or rent. And we often at the end of the tour, we often say, speak to people living in the area. You know, we've been in the industry a long time. We know people, so we can say to them, look, ring this guy here. He's a similar type of person to you. He's also an English speaker. He's got kids the same age. Speak to him. Ask him all the questions. If it's somebody who wants to know about the religious aspects of an area, here, speak to the rabbi. He's an English-speaking rabbi. Ask him all the questions, and then we meet up again. And it's a process. Once the area is identified, being open-minded is very, very important. There's no 100% perfection, not even with an unlimited budget. We had a while ago, we had a client with an unlimited budget. We showed him probably the best apartment there is, one of the best in Israel. His wife was scared of heights. So you got to be open-minded, and you got to understand the market value. And when we show apartments, we always try and stick to the budget. Sometimes we go a little higher, and sometimes we go lower. It educates on the market value. And bearing in mind, all prices are asking prices, and there's always negotiation. Over the last year, the amount for negotiation has reduced. And sometimes, on many occasions, there's been no negotiation whatsoever, but normally there always is. And that's our job. Most important person in this whole process is the client, not the sellers, not the mortgage brokers, and not us. is the client gets what they want at the price they want and all the correct terms. If not, it's not a good transaction, and we prefer it not to happen. The last one is, whichever city you decide to choose, always work with an agent that's been recommended, or you know people that have worked with him. It saves you all the aggravation of just opening up the internet and choosing somebody. A lot of the information on the internet is not relevant. A lot of the properties on the internet are not relevant. So you need somebody to say to you, look, that's relevant, this is not relevant. And you become then a buyer's agent, and everything the potential buyer or renter wants to know, they can ask the one person. And often we have clients that send us links and say, what do you think of this? So this one was sold 2 years ago. This one, the price isn't relevant, and this one is relevant. So we'll go and see it. So it just saves a lot of time, and it saves getting confused. Okay, we didn't, somebody asked a question about buying on paper, which we haven't discussed. So I'll touch on it very briefly. As an office, we have sold many, many apartments via contractors, and we market projects now exclusively. So we are involved. Again, you need a good agent to steer you through. You need to understand who the contractor is, whether it's one of the large ones, whether it's somebody who's, you know, a much smaller contractor. There's always a lot more to go through. The purchasing process is similar. So you have different payment plans. You have to work with you get bank guarantees. So there's different laws and regulations all in place to protect the buyer, not the seller. There's bank guarantees against every shekel that's invested. The payment plan sometimes can be negotiated, but that's what you have a good agent for, to do that for you. And some people think, well, I'll go to the contractor, I'll negotiate. You know, a good agent knows what the bottom line price is, and we know how to get to it. A contractor, they're not acting on your behalf. So sometimes you may save a few shekels here and there, but it's in the long term, you still need to work with an agent. And the last one, the cheapest agent is far from the best, okay? The standard commission in Israel is 2% plus VAT. A good agent is worth every single shekel. We have clients that say, well, this guy works for this one, this. So I answer people, there are people that work for nothing. You're very welcome to work with him. And I will give him a phone number of people that work for them. He's only got his own pocket in is interesting to him, not the client. The client is the most important person to a good agent, and by looking after him, referrals come and more business come, and you don't get that by not looking after them correctly. So that's the tip. The tip for renters is, part of it is similar to purchasing, where you need to really understand the area and fit it to the needs of the whole family. So if you've got youngsters and teenagers and grandparents all want to live near each other, they have to have all the needs. If somebody's not going to drive, they've got to be in an area where everything is close by. They don't need to get taxis or buses everywhere. And also you've got to check any building, this is also for sales as well, whether there's plans to renovate the building. Sometimes you can move into a building and you're happy there, you've got a year's lease, and all of a sudden you get a crane outside, they're starting to renovate the outside, and there's 6 months of noise, and it's unbearable. Those things don't happen overnight, and there's always a plan. So the landlord or owner are obligated to tell you that the building is going to go through renovation or whatever's going to happen, and it's going to start on such and such a month. It's very important to have a lawyer go through the contract and explain your commitments. Lots of lawyers say, don't worry, it'll all be fine, it's a simple contract. If everything was simple, we wouldn't have contracts and we wouldn't need lawyers. Okay, in Israel, we do need lawyers, and we need explaining. The contracts, 99% are in Hebrew, and I would advise never sign any legal document not in the language that you understand or it's been explained to you. So I would choose a lawyer. A lawyer charges 1 month plus VAT. It's worth every single shekel in the long run. Okay, and another one here is when renting, always look for a clause that allows the owner to bring potential purchases to during the term of the lease. So you could have a year's option, and after 6 months, the owner could say, okay, we decided we're going to sell, we're going to put a sign outside, and you got to show the apartment whenever you want, whenever the agent wants. It creates a lot of instability for the tenant, and it can be unpleasant. Sometimes it does happen, and it needs to be an agreement between the tenant and the owner, maybe twice a week, 4 hours a week, 6 hours a week, whatever's agreed. But always check the contracts. It's an important clause that people often don't even look at. Okay, what's next, Rafi?
Yeah. Let's bring on the next slide. Oops, there we go.
Okay, so I've selected a couple of apartments in different areas of Netanya. Netanya is a city by the sea. It's called the Israeli Riviera. 3/4 of Netanya is built on a cliff, and there's an area called Area Miramat Poleg that is totally flat. So the picture we're looking at now is in an area called South Beach. So we're set back about 500 meters from the water. If anyone knows Netanya, it's near the West Lagoon, the Lagoon Towers. There's a nice English-speaking synagogue called SNAC, which stands for South Netanya Ashkenazi Community, which is exactly what it is. Many people want to live there to be close to this synagogue. They have shiurim, and they have regular minyans, and people there from all over the world. And it's a new area, new construction. So this specific apartment is, as I said, 500 meters from the water. It's in a very, very good project with a Shabbat elevator. There's a management company that manage it, and there's 4 rooms, 3 bedrooms, and the size is 116 meters, which is a generous size for a 3-bedroom apartment, plus the balcony of 12 meters. And you see the sea, and you got west, north, and east exposure. This apartment was purchased by an American family 8 years ago. I sold it to them, which was the second time, and now they decided to move to Modi'in to be near family, and it's come back on the market. So the price is 2.2 million shekels. And for this specific apartment, the maintenance, which in Israel is called the Va'ad, is 350 shekels a month. That's for the elevators and the cleaning and the management. And if you were living here, the Arnona, which is the municipality, would cost 1,650 shekels for 2 months. That's based on pure meterage. Apartments in Israel generally come empty, without lighting, without kitchen appliances, and without furniture. If there is anything to be included in the apartment, it gets written down as a special appendix as part of the contract. So it's black and white, and there's no issues about what was agreed. Okay, next slide, please, Rafi. Okay, this is on Shlomo Melech, which is 1 street back from Nitza Boulevard. As we can see from the top right picture, we are very close to the water, and we are literally next door but one to a Young Israel synagogue, which is a very, very English-speaking synagogue, an English-speaking rabbi, and the synagogue can be a large part of your lives or less, but it suits nearly everybody. This building is predominantly an English-speaking building where people live here all the year round. It's 120 meters, which is really spacious, and you've got a front-facing balcony with the sea view. It's got a brand new kosher kitchen, and this apartment can be sold furnished or not, whatever's decided. And the list price here is 2,990,000 shekels. and is available in the next 3 months. It actually looks like a show apartment, but there are family living here. It's just very well maintained. Okay, next. Okay, this is an apartment that is for rent or for sale. It's in central Netanya in an older building. It's close to all the main facilities, schools, shopping. It's about a 15-minute walk to the beach. So as you can see, it's older construction. It's 3 floors, and this specific apartment is on the 2nd floor. And there's just under 100 meters for 3 bedrooms, 4 rooms, which is a generous size. It's been through renovation, and it's got a nice new air conditioning system. If it was to rent, it would be 5,000 shekels a month. And if it was for sale, it's just over 1.5 million shekels. So the owners want to either rent or to sell. So a lot of Netanya along the seafront, a lot of it is newer construction. There's mainly 3 main areas along the coast. The first one is the furthest north, which is Nitsa Boulevard, which anyone knowing Netanya will recognize the name. It's an old established area. It's very, very popular with people from many, many countries. All the kosher restaurants are there, cafes. There's more than one synagogue. There's a Chabad house, and people find it a very soft landing. Then as we move, probably a 20, 15-minute walk, we end up in the area of South Beach, and we're still on the cliff. There's hotels there. There's many buildings with pools, some without. Again, it's been very popular as it's close to the Snack Synagogue, and there's an elevator just recently completed down to the beach, and they're just making the beach nicer, and they're putting breakers in the water. So it just makes access for everybody much, much easier. And then we go further south again, we end up in an area, the newest area in Netanya, called Ramat Poleg Eriamim. The area has got a lot of infrastructure, got all medical centers, doctors, schools, shopping malls, restaurants. 99.9% are all kosher. So you can just walk out, buy a pizza, and everything's kosher. There's many, many observant people living there. And if the synagogue is important, there's a Young Israel synagogue that often have shiurs, and they go on trips together. There's a really, really nice community. And then another area is slightly east, which is called Kiryat Asharon, which is also a very, very nice area. It's a 10-minute drive. It's very, very popular. The prices are less expensive. A lot of non-Israelis have bought there the last 3 years, many from America, many with young families. They've got all sorts of schools, religious, irreligious, and it has an awful lot to offer. So there's four main areas, and then there's lots of other areas. But the English speakers tend to live in the same area. Whether you're buying or renting, it makes no difference, but they tend to live in the same areas. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions, then they can ask me or any of the other team for any other cities, and Rafi, of course. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Darren. Let me just flip to the contact slide. And now I want to get to some questions. We're running a little late, but I do want to get through some of them. So somebody asked here a question that Darren, you had answered in the chat, but maybe you can answer it for everybody. As a ballpark figure, what percentage do you tell people they should expect in expenses over and above the cost of the apartment? What ballpark figure would you recommend that people put into their budget?
Okay, we talk about on the purchasing costs on top, which consists of three amounts. The first one is a government tax, which is a one-off tax and is based purely on the purchasing amount. That gets paid to the government within 45 days of purchasing. Is depending on the amount, between 3 and 4%, depending on the amount. You then have agents fees of 2% plus VAT, which incidentally is 17%. And then you have your own legal representation, your legal lawyer, which can be between 0.75 and 1%. It depends whether they have to deal with mortgages and everything. It depends on the amount of work. And they're the three amounts that actually get you the key. If beforehand you see you need a new kitchen and you need to do new flooring, we can always bring quotes. Any of us can always bring people in before you buy to give you an idea. It's going to cost you X to put a new kitchen in, new bathroom, and you can include it into your spreadsheet and costs, but the purchasing costs are those three items. And that's the same whether you buy on paper or something used. And incidentally, one thing we didn't discuss, nobody discussed today, is when buying, let's say, a resale home, and people have families living there, there may be a closing date of anything up to 6 months in Israel is acceptable. It could be less, or many times it could be more. So if you decide you're going to buy an apartment, it's going to cost you 2 million shekels. Okay, as important as the price is, there are other areas that are equally important. And one of those issues is the payment. So let's say you can say, well, I've only got 10% now, and I've got 90% in 6 months' time. It's unlikely that payment plan will go through. So yeah, you can pay the price, but the payment plan won't work. So a payment plan is part of the negotiation, and it could be something like, okay, 6-month completion. It may be 25% upon signing, maybe 20% at the end, and there may be 1 or 2 payments in the middle. But again, as the agent's job to negotiate that for you. So it suits you. If one's taking a mortgage, we try and structure it where the mortgage payment is as close to the end as possible. Not always is it possible, that's our objective. So you're not paying for an apartment you've not actually received yet. It does happen, but our objective is to make sure the mortgage is at the back end of it.
Got it. Galit, you talked about knowing the competition, right, and what other prices are priced at. How do people go about finding that out, or how do you find out? There's no central listing, so what's your thoughts on that?
First thing that usually people do is they post they put a sign on their property, and that's something that's common practice that everyone does, because when you want to catch a really a motivated buyer, he's usually driving around the neighborhood, probably around on Fridays when they're not working, and they list their apartment on Yad Shtaim, which is open to anyone who wants to, have exposure, digital exposure for their apartment for sale. Many times they won't be listed on Yad Shtaim because some people prefer having less agents or people calling them and prefer only the ones from the street, or vice versa. You might not find a sign, but you'll see their ad on Yad Shtaim. It's kind of all over the place, but those are the two common places that you would know about your competition.
Okay. Yael, you talked about the fact that when you, if you find something that you like, you have to move quickly. And so what are the pieces that you have to have in place? I think Darren talked about having a lawyer. What other, people do you need to have so that you can move quickly to close on a sale or on a rental?
I think it's very important to know who your lawyer is, to decide on an agent that you're going to work with that can, like I said, have your eyes and ears on the ground here, or even if you're here, to have that person, because it is a process and it does take time, but then when an offer goes in, it can move very quickly. It doesn't always, but it can. Like Darren mentioned, you can put in the offer and the offer's accepted, and then it won't actually go through for 3 months. But what I've seen this whole summer is just nonstop. Thank God, people are buying, people are moving, and people are renting.
I'd
and
like
people
to
are
ask Yael, if you don't mind, Yael, regarding that. I have a couple, they're Olim. They're renting an apartment here in Ashkelon. They've seen maybe 30 apartments, and everything that they've seen already has sold so far that after that we narrowed it down to what they were looking for. But because they were hesitant, they weren't sure, they couldn't make up their mind and their decision, even though they got everything that they were looking for, they weren't quick enough to decide. And there's, you have to understand, quick in their minds is a couple months. That's not quick. It's not. When you get everything that you need to put in an offer within the first couple of days after you decided that this is right for you. Otherwise, it'll be gone. And they come back to me and I have to start over. And this is how it's been for 6 months. I told them, look, I can only provide so much new merchandise, let's put it that way, but it's time to make a decision. Otherwise, honestly, you're going to exhaust everyone around you. And then again, starting over is difficult for the buyers as well. So that's just, the situation that we find ourselves as a third party dealing with sometimes, with having to make a decision in a timely manner. We understand on one hand, we don't want to put you under too much pressure, but on the other hand, there needs to be a decision that needs to be made.
Right. Okay.
I want to just add to that. The reason why this is happening is because of the inventory or the lack of inventory. It's a seller's market. So let's say in Jerusalem, in Rehovot, there's maybe 5 apartments that are for sale that are really like worth looking at. And I can't even count how many people are actually looking to buy. So you have multiple offers on the one property. If it even goes to, an open house, which is not even necessarily happening. And that's the reason why there is this need to be ready, because it's really a seller's market and not as a buyer's market. There's not a lot of inventory. And whatever comes is just taken very quickly.
Right. Eldad, there's a question here about somebody who's interested in projects in either Ashkelon or Rehovot. Can you talk a little bit about buying on paper? They want to know how much you typically need to put down if you're looking to buy on paper for a project that's not going to be ready for maybe 2 or 3 years. Can you talk briefly just about that process?
Yeah. In Israel, buying on paper, it's not a bad idea. The only problem here is that when you buy from someone individual, some apartment, so you know exactly when you're getting the keys. It can be after 4 months, after 6 months. When you buy on paper, and we can see it especially in the recent year and a half with the COVID-19, it's very uncertain when you'll get the keys. I mean, the contract can say, you can get the keys for the new project in 8 months, but it won't be in 8 months. I know new projects that the people got the keys after 3 or 4 months, and I know people who got the keys after a year. Not always because it was the fault of the builder, because sometimes it's external reasons, like people who couldn't come to work, people, war, and the COVID-19, of course. So this is one issue that I think it's very important to think about. In terms of how much money to put down, it depends where the project, if it's just starting now or it didn't start yet, or they started the first and the second floor. There is a law in Israel that you pay the builder by the progress of the building. And this law, it's the government issued this law about 8 years ago after a big company went bankrupt and many people lost their money. And now it's very, very organized. I want to say something about what Yael were talking about. I think I happen to deal with many investors, people buying from overseas, especially in the last year and a half. Rehovot is very affordable compared to other, let's say, Anglo cities. And I think one very important thing is when people want to buy either as for investment or not, to recognize what is a good deal. Yael mentioned before that you can go online And let's say there is apartment on Herzl Street, and they're asking for 2 million. So you can easily go online and see recent transactions in the same street for very similar apartments. And again, then you know what will be a proportional price for this apartment. And when I dealt with a couple from New York who wanted to buy for investment here in Rehovot, so they had a certain budget, and we were looking for probably 2 months, and we found things, but it wasn't perfect. And then one day, someone who just got apartment inherited the apartment, and just want to get rid of that and get the money as fast as possible. He put price that was very, very attractive, and there is no even place for negotiation. I told them, listen, it's something that in one day will be disappear, and then they bought it. So I think recognizing what is a good deal, and now it's very easy to do it. It's something that will definitely lead many people to the right purchase.
Right, and I completely agree. And you know, one of the questions that a few people asked here is how much do realtors, the brokers charge? And I think it might have somebody answered it earlier, but just to recap it, it's 2% plus VAT, which is 17%. And in my experience, in just all the people that we've helped over the years, and referring people to the realtors that have joined us here tonight, I can't say enough how important it is, not just from a dollars and cents or shekel and cents kind of point of view, but just working with somebody that you can trust, because we've heard horror stories of people who have bought and worked with people who have taken advantage of them, and it's really something that is you know, you can avoid, and if you work with the right people. And so, you know, going back to what we said at the beginning, for many people this is a lifelong dream to make Aliyah and to buy a home in Israel. And what we want to do is we want to help you realize that dream. And so with that, I'd like to thank all the moderators that have joined us tonight, to Darren, to Yael, to Eldad, and to Galit. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who have joined us. If you have any questions, if you just want to talk, you know, we're here for you. We will send out the recording, as I mentioned, please God, by tomorrow. And just look out for more webinars that we're going to be doing. There's a lot of questions that people have, and we want to be able to help you and guide you. And so thank you to all that have joined us tonight. We wish you a Shavua Tov, a good week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you soon. Take care and Laila Tov. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Rafi, for organizing it.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take
Good night,
care.
everyone.
Take care, all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.